When it comes to by-elections in South Africa, there's one of two really mindsets around it. The first are from general population that goes, who cares? It's a by-election. I'm not even entirely sure what that means. The second mindset is from people who say, oh, this is the most important thing in the whole world because this will predict the outcome of the next national election. The truth, however, is somewhere in the middle. They do matter, but they don't matter anywhere near as much as people would like to claim. There has been a number of by-elections. For those of you who don't quite understand how by-elections happen, there's a number of ways in which it can, but most often it's when one councillor decides to walk over to another party, or when a councillor resigns, or when a councillor is voted out of the mayoral sort of commission. A whole host of reasons. But effectively, when one councillor's seat is vacated, there has to be a by-election for that new councillor in that ward. And as I said, there's a multitude of reasons for why that can happen. This sort of should give you the first clue into the importance of by-elections and why by-elections matter to some extent, but not nearly as much as some people would like you to believe. But anyways, over at Daily Maverick, they have posted the most recent by-election results. And if you go here, you will see the by-election results as they have happened. So on the 16th of October, we had the PA that shocked in Soweto and Swellendam. Action SA actually notched a historic ward win in the Northwest. And then earlier in October, you had the DA win in Mpumalanga, which was absolutely insane because they actually took a ward off of the ANC. The ANC barely managed to hang on in Mamelodi, which used to be a stronghold for them. DA surges in Durban ward, which is also pretty good, right? So you have all of these different results. And even if you go down here, this is just fantastic. And this is actually something that people should probably focus on a little bit, because this is the Diep Kloof Noordgesig. It's in the Johannesburg Metro Municipality, and it has been historically part of the ANC's stronghold. The ANC controls basically most of the rural areas around the sort of urban hubs, right? So Soweto, the townships, and the more rural areas outside of that, that's ANC territory. So to see the PA get 30%, the ANC 23%, and the EFF 16%. Now, as you can see, it's very hotly contested. The Action SA got 10% of the vote there. Very hotly contested, and the ANC would have to effectively sign up with EFF, Action SA, and then a couple of the other smaller parties in order to edge out the PA. You go down to Langeberg, the Langeberg Ward 4. Here, the ANC actually managed to hand the DA and the PA a massive blood nose, which is actually brilliant for the ANC because they tend to do not that very good in the Western Cape. Going down to Swellendam, you have the PA getting an outright majority with 51% of the vote, the DA down to 19%, and the ANC to 30%. But again, these are just individual wards. The reason I'm showing you this, and the reason I'm not going to show you every single by-election result in the country, is because for the most part, it doesn't matter. I don't think any of you really care about this individual ward that maybe makes up a couple of blocks in the city and how that election played out. And here's sort of why. Different elections have different weights attached to them. If you go by national election, it's all about the party. Who is the party that you want in charge, and who is the leader that you want to vote for that will become the president? Now, in South Africa, those two are attached to each other. You vote for the party, and that party, the party that wins, their leader becomes the president of the country. When you go to local elections or provincial elections, things change a little bit. So in provincial elections, what will more often than not happen is a bit of a combination between voting for the party, but also voting for the person that is being put forward. So the person isn't as important as the party is, because people tend to vote for the DA because they like the DA overall, but then they also look at the person that the DA has put forward to be the premier or to be the mayor and determine based on that whether or not they will go out to vote. Most of the time, however, the mayor that you sort of suggest or that you propose for the region will be far more influential in actually getting people out to vote than sort of swinging votes, if that makes sense. When we get to by-elections, and this is very specifically almost ultra-local elections, the person matters way more than the party. The reason for that is when you're voting in a by-election for your ward, you know that the party that this person belongs to is of no consequence. That party isn't going to do much. The question is more, who's the person that you're ultimately voting for? Is that a guy that you can trust? Is it a guy in good standing with the community? Or is it not? Now, that, of course, doesn't mean that by-elections are wholly useless. They are very, very useful when it comes to sort of tracking trends. And in this, there's a number of things over the last few by-elections that we've had in this country that has started to, I think, mount into a bit of a trend. We've seen the ANC support collapse around the country in what was always historically very strong ANC positions. All of the provinces except for the Eastern Cape. The Eastern Cape does not move. The ANC is still the number one party in the Eastern Cape, and it doesn't appear like the people in the Eastern Cape has any wish of changing their vote anytime soon. This, in spite of the fact that the Eastern Cape is one of the worst run municipal areas in the country, with some of the poorest people in the country, I think it kind of makes sense. For the people in the Eastern Cape, they've always been poor. So whatever little bit of crumb the ANC offers them, they're going to take it. These are also most likely people who don't have a lot of access to the internet or people who have access to television. And so for them, they just vote how they've always voted. And they believe whenever the ANC says that, hey, this is apartheid's fault or whatever, they believe that. So I think it kind of does make sense, and especially usually with provinces that are starting to fall apart in that way, the people that do know, they leave, right? They don't stay behind. So right now, that's sort of the situation in the Eastern Cape. As for in every other province, we see the PA making giant inroads. We see the ANC support collapsing. We see in some areas the EFF and the MK doing pretty well, but in other areas not really doing that well, and in some places even having their support totally collapse. The big winner thus far of almost all of the by-election results have been the PA. They continue to surprise, and I think there's a reason for it. I think there's now a moment that a lot of us in South Africa have to start facing some facts. I don't think the DA is going to get any higher than 30% of the vote share. I think the ANC is going to continue to collapse as we lead into the next provincial elections and then into the next national elections, 2027 and 2029 respectively for those. But I think the big winners are going to be the PA. And there's a reason for it. The ANC is just corrupt, right? And they're corrupt, and people are starting to connect the dots saying, hey, this country isn't doing well, and you guys have been in charge for a long time, so clearly you guys are to blame for it. So people are starting to abandon ship, looking for another home. The problem with the DA is stuck in this mindset of the statesman, right? This idea that 1950s, 1960s, the man in the suit with the tie standing in front of the people going, my fellow South Africans, right? This sort of very strict and staunch statesman, like not pointing fingers, not speaking like a normal human being, but no, I will speak like a man that knows I am more educated than you. People are sick and tired of that. If you look across the world, Reform UK, absolutely killing it. Donald Trump, absolutely killing it in the United States. You look across the whole of Europe, you have right-wing parties led by fairly ordinary people, speaking like ordinary people, absolutely blasting the historical statesman. And I think the reason for that is people are sick and tired of the statesman with the suit and the tie standing in front of them lying, and then seeing for the next 4 years the statesman do nothing of the things that was actually promised. And so we are sort of entering a period of the personality cult or the personality vote, where I want to vote for someone that I feel like I could have a beer with this person, and they're going to be interesting, and I'm going to have fun talking to them. That is not no one in the ANC. That's not John Steenhuisen. That used to be John Steenhuisen when he was the chief whip in Parliament, but ever since he got elected, his whole facade changed. He became this ultra sort of, just saying all the right things. No one cares about that. People want real people, and for all of his faults and for all of the things that I criticize Gayton McKenzie for, the one thing I have to say about him is he doesn't give a crap. He just says whatever the hell he thinks. Sometimes it's stupid, but sometimes it's really all right. So Gayton McKenzie, I think, and the other thing that Gayton McKenzie is doing that is absolutely fantastic is he isn't engaging in grievance politics. He isn't standing on a platform screaming about apartheid. He isn't standing on a platform and screaming about how miserable the lives of colored people are and trying to sort of dial into their victim statuses. Instead, he's speaking for everyone. He says what most people are too afraid to say. And yes, he is standing for the coloreds, but not in a way where he's standing against other people. Even as Minister of Sport, he appears to be happy when any South African team wins, and he doesn't do the whole race nonsense. And as I've showed you guys in the past, the majority, about 72% of black people in South Africa, want South Africa to move past its racial history and just move forward. They don't care about the racial stuff anymore. And I think Gayton McKenzie is the guy that is currently speaking the best to what South Africans want to hear. So I actually think we should look out for the PA. I'm not saying that they will get 30, 40, 50% of the vote in the next national election, but I do think that they can cause massive upsets. I think the Western Cape is in trouble. I think the DA needs to start pulling their finger because I think the PA is coming for them hard. I think you could even see the PA make a massive showing in Gauteng. And I think the same is true for a lot of the other provinces where the PA is starting to gain ground. So yeah, I think ultimately the by-elections are important and they're interesting, but more so for trending and not so much for actually telling us what's going to happen in the next election. As always, hit the like if you like, the dislike if you didn't. Let me know in the comment section down below. Who do you think is going to win the next local election in 2027? If you could do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, we're on our way to 50k subscribers, and I would love to have you along for the ride. As always, a massive shout out and thank you to all of the patrons as well as the YouTube channel members for your continued support on this channel. To become a patron, just hit the link in the description down below or the join button right below this video. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.